loves, what is up and welcome back to my channel. Happy Mommy Monday. If you are new to my channel, Mondays are all about my mommy life. And if you are not new to my channel, welcome back and happy Mommy Monday once again. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my labor and delivery story. And I was a little hesitant to share this story because it's been pretty much 5 years. But I decided I'm still going to go ahead and share it with you guys in case there's any new mommies, or even if you're not a new mommy, if this is happening to you or this has happened to you and you don't know anybody that, can give you information in regards to it, I'm going to go ahead and share my story with you. So if you love these types of videos, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And let's go ahead and get started. Comfortable here. Alright guys, so this video is going to be more of a story time kind of thing because I am going to be telling you guys the story of my labor and delivery. So for starters, like I said, I was a little hesitant to share this story because it's been 5 years already. And I know a lot of mommies that do share their labor and delivery stories are because they literally just gave birth or it's been a few months. And mine has been 5 years, so that's why I was so hesitant about it. But the more I thought about it and remember like how afraid I was and how scared I was, I decided I was going to share it with you guys anyway. That way you guys can, pretty much have a little backstory on how my labor and delivery went and what I went through. Alright, so for starters, I'm going to go ahead and go 1 week back before I actually gave birth. And it was a regular night. I was feeling okay. And I was gonna get ready for bed, so I went into the bathroom to brush my teeth, and my sink was like a little lower. I think everyone's sink is. So I kind of like lowered myself a little bit. It wasn't even anything crazy. It was just a little bit, just so I can brush my teeth. And then I heard a snap, literally like when you crack your fingers, like crack, like a snap. And I was like, oh my gosh, that does not sound good. And then I just stood there for a while and I'm just like, I don't even want to move because I'm scared. Like that sounded so bad. So then I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a bath because baths would always help me relax. Obviously not a hot bath because as a pregnant woman, you're not allowed to take hot baths because something about it starts contractions earlier. Anyway, so I took a bath, and when I got into the bath, and I wanted to sit down, I was in so much pain. I couldn't sit down, I couldn't lay down, and that's when I realized that I had either 1, broken my tailbone, or 2, something with my tailbone because I was so much in pain. I couldn't even sit down, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't move, couldn't lay down. So then I remember calling my mom, and then my mom came in and she was like, what happened to you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just bent down to brush my teeth and then I heard a snap and now I'm in so much pain. So we went to the ER that night, and then they had told me they don't really know what's going on. All they can do is pretty much see it as a muscle spasm, but they couldn't really do any x-rays because I was pregnant. So I think they gave me like muscle relaxers or something like that, which I didn't even take because I was afraid of hurting the baby, even though they told me that what they were giving me was perfectly safe for the baby. Didn't even end up taking it. So I was pretty much in pain from my tailbone for like, I think like, yeah, it was a week. It was a whole week. And I even had to take my maternity leave from work early because I did work at a laboratory. So a lot of the times when I wasn't drawing blood, I was actually sitting down working in the lab and just entering tests or answering phones. So obviously I couldn't sit down, so I had to take my maternity leave early. My doctor gave the approval. So fast forward a week later, I started feeling a lot of pain, like in my abdomen or lower area. So it was like really, really bad and I couldn't even take it, but it wasn't even like 5 minutes or 2 minutes apart. It was more like 10 to 15 minutes apart, and it would hurt so bad. But I remember we were still like walking around, and I would just hold it and kind of just like hold my breath, and then it would go away, and I was like, okay, I'm good. And then we got home that night, we were laying down, and I remember my husband was playing his video game, and I told him like, I'm in so much pain, like I think I need to go to the hospital. And he was like, no, 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 you're fine, babe, like I've been reading about it, and your contractions are like so far apart, I don't even think they're contractions, they're probably like fake contractions, because I read about that. So then I thought about it, and I was like, okay, maybe they are, you know, Braxton Hicks. But then I started freaking out, because I'm like, oh my gosh, if these are Braxton Hicks, I'm not gonna be able to handle the real contractions, because this is way too much. Like, I literally felt like my body was breaking in half. Like, I don't know, I felt like they were grabbing me and pulling me in half, and that's how much pain I was in. And then to add to it, my tailbone had snapped or broken in half. So that's another thing that I had to deal with. And at this point I was 38 weeks. Yeah, I was pretty much 38 weeks pregnant. And I remember that night I was so upset because I was in so much pain. I remember telling my husband, like, you need to get out of this room. Like, I can't stand looking at you. Just leave. And I think I was mad because I low-key was mad because I was in so much pain and he was just, you know, playing his video game. And I was like, oh, must be nice to be a guy. So I remember him, like, he didn't want to argue. He grabbed his pillow and he walked out to the living room. And then a few minutes later, he came back, and I told him, you know what, I can't take this anymore. I'm in so much pain. And I remember him telling me, like, you know what, that's fine. Let's go ahead and take you to the hospital. They're probably gonna send us back anyway, but let's go ahead and let's just go. I didn't have anything packed. I didn't have my hospital bag packed. Didn't have anything because I wasn't expecting to pretty much give birth that night or the following morning. So we go into the ER, and by then I'm in a lot more pain. And the lady, the nurse, she's trying to strap the little belt, the monitor, to monitor the baby's heart rate, and she's just like, I can't do it. For some reason, like, I can't seem to find it. So I was already panicking. I was a first-time mom, and even if you're not a first-time mom, when they're telling you, like, I can't really, you know, find the heartbeat or the heart rate or whatever, like, you're automatically panicking. So but at the same time, I would feel her like not putting it right, because I had gone to the hospital before when I broke my tailbone, so they put it on me, and I kind of got an idea of where it goes and everything. So I knew she wasn't placing it right, so I was mad, and I told her, you're not even placing it right, that's why you can't hear the heart rate. And I was just in so much pain. And also monitors your contractions, right? So she couldn't put the monitor thing on me, and I was really upset. And then I heard her tell my husband, like, you know, I'm not saying she's lying, but in the monitor, like, it's not showing any contraction whatsoever. So then I overheard her, and I was like, you know what, if I'm not having any contraction, why am I in so much pain? And she's just like, the doctor's gonna come in and she's gonna check you. And then so the midwife comes in, which happens to be my midwife. So she sees me and she's like, what happened, sweetheart, are you okay? And I'm just like, no, I'm in so much pain. And she goes, okay, well, let's go ahead and check you. So she, you know, puts her hand, she checks me, and she's just like, oh my gosh, you are 7 centimeters dilated, you are gonna have this baby already. And so I looked at my husband and I looked at the nurse, and I'm just like, you know, but I'm lying, right? I knew they weren't implying that I was lying, but I guess it just wasn't showing on the monitor. But I was so mad because I was in so much pain that I just wanted to fight with everybody and anybody, I guess. And I go into the labor and delivery room, and then they ask me, like, are you gonna get your epidural, or are you not gonna want an epidural? And because I had broken my tailbone, my midwife and I had already discussed that it's better for me to get an epidural, because once the baby starts pushing down and happens to go hit through my tailbone, it's just gonna hurt me even more, and I'm not gonna be able to take the pain. And I was thinking about all that, and my original plan was not to get an epidural, but at that point, because I had been in so much pain with my tailbone, I was like, okay, my tailbone plus when the baby starts pushing down to get out, like, I'm just not gonna be able to take it, I'm sure. So I did get my epidural, which by the way was amazing. I didn't feel a single thing. I remember telling the guy that did my epidural, can you let me know when you're about to stick the needle in? And he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, can you just let me know, because I like to know, I get nervous. And he was like, no, the needle's already in, you're done. And I was like, no way. And he's like, yeah, you're already done, it's already in, are you okay? Is it uncomfortable? And I'm like, no, I can't feel a thing. So praise God for that. I didn't feel a single thing when they put the epidural in. And so then I went back to just laying down, and then the nurse said, just relax, take it easy, we'll go ahead and come check on you in an hour. And then so I think like 2 hours passed by, and I remember telling my husband like, hey, I need to push, like I have the need to push. And so he called the nurse, and then the nurses came in, and then they checked me, and they were like, okay, she's ready, like she's ready to push. So I'm gonna start pushing, and at the same time we're waiting for the other midwife to come in so that I can start pushing. And then all of a sudden excuse me, and then all of a sudden I see like the nurse gets worried, and then she like whispers something to my husband, and then they put the little oxygen mask on me, which I felt like I couldn't breathe. Those things are like super uncomfortable. They're supposed to give you more oxygen, but I honestly felt like I couldn't breathe with that thing. So I was like, I don't want this, why do I have this? And then they were trying to calm me down, like it's okay, the baby is a little bit in distress, so he needs the oxygen. And then the nurse, one of the nurses tells me, I'm just gonna let you know, like you're gonna see a bunch of people come in, but it's okay. And so she's telling me not to worry, but you know, like why would a lot of people come in? So then I told her why, and she's like, it's just like our cardiac doctors, and just to make sure. And I was like, you guys don't do that to everybody just to make sure, like what's wrong with the baby? I need to know what's wrong with the baby. And so they were like, you know what, we don't know what's going on, like his heart rate is like slowing down, it's going down. I didn't even know what was going on. All I know is I guess the baby was in distress, because I had been ready to push out the baby for a while already. They were supposed to come check on me in an hour, and like I said, almost a little over 2 hours had gone by. So I'm thinking maybe it was the time, I'm not sure, I'm not a doctor, but I did feel like I need to push for, you know, for a whole hour, and they weren't coming to check on me. So I got really, really scared, and I started to cry. I'm like, okay, something's going on. And then the midwife comes in, and she's like, okay, let's, you know, start pushing. And so I pushed and pushed and pushed. I think I pushed for a total, I want to say I got to the hospital like around 1 a.m. My son was born at 8:43 a.m. So let's see. I started pushing like around 5 a.m. and my total hours of pushing was about 3 hours. So that's 3 hours of pushing. Like I told my husband, imagine having to really use the bathroom and, you know, having to push for 3 hours straight. Like I was exhausted and I was scared, and I was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And I remember telling the midwife, just, you know, let's do a C-section. Like I don't want to do this anymore, I can't push, the baby's not coming, I'm scared, like let's just do the C-section. And of course by then I was fully dilated, 10 centimeters. And she looked at me and she said, no, are you crazy? We cannot do a C-section, you're fully dilated, you're doing fine, you can do this, you need to give me one more push. And I had nothing left, like nothing left in me. I was so tired, exhausted. I hadn't slept the couple nights before because of my tailbone pain. It was super uncomfortable. And I don't even know, like I remember just asking God, like, God, please help me. And the pain was so bad by then, even with the epidural, that I remember telling my husband, like, I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna die. And I know now when I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds like so dramatic. But at the moment, the pain was so intense, you guys, that I was like, I'm not gonna make it. Anytime now, I'm probably gonna die. And I remember my husband like looking so worried and wanting to cry, and he's like, please don't tell me that. And so when it came down to the last push, I remember just asking God, like, God, please help me, I'm so tired. So I remember giving one push, but I remember also feeling my midwife's hands kind of go in a little bit and grabbing the baby and helping me get him out too. So then my baby boy was born at 8:43 a.m. He was so precious, the most precious baby boy I've ever seen in my life. And everything was great. I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. And we went into our room. Everything was situated. Some people came to see us like almost right away. And then within a few hours later, I even stood up to the bathroom, because they do ask you to use the bathroom, and you know, if you're a mom, you know. And so I went by myself, I used the bathroom, everything was fine. I wasn't bleeding too much, which was cool because I expected a lot more blood, but there actually wasn't a lot. So I'm like, okay, cool, this is it, like I did it. A few hours, I had one of my best friends, she was about to come in to visit me, and I wanted to get up. And then as soon as I wanted to get up to the bathroom, I couldn't. Like my legs had no movement. So I told my husband and I freaked out. I'm like, I can't walk. And he's like, what are you talking about? You were just fine earlier. And I told him, no, I can't move. I can't walk. I can't move. I can't move my legs. So I want to demonstrate something to you guys real quick. All right, this is my son's, but I just kind of want to demonstrate because obviously I'm not going to be demonstrating with my legs and everything. So my legs, okay, so these are my legs, and normally you can move your legs like, you know, back and forth and whatever. My legs felt like they were shut tight like this. And so when I would try to get up, I couldn't. And then even to walk, I had to walk like this, like hopping. So I had no movement in between my legs, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, the pelvic bones. So I had fractured my pelvic bones, and no one could really understand what was going on because, like I said, right when I gave birth, I was able to move, I was able to walk, I was able to use the restroom. And I think that because the epidural hadn't fully worn off, that's why I hadn't felt the pain. That's just a guess of mine, because I was fine. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. I didn't have any movement like in between my legs. I could move my legs, like obviously, but I didn't have like movement. I couldn't move around or anything or stand up or nothing. And so I started freaking out. I started crying, and then I started kind of yelling because the nurse was kind of like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I can't move. And she's like, you were just fine, like I saw you. And I'm like, I'm not lying to you, like I literally can't move. Why would I lie to you about this? And so she was really confused. She didn't know what was going on. And so then they were like, you know what, we're just gonna go ahead and call like one of the midwives or a doctor, and they're gonna check you. And then by then my midwife was back at the hospital because it was the next day during the day. So she's like, what happened? And I'm just like, I don't know what happened. I can't move my legs. I'm so scared. I couldn't walk. And she's just like, you know what? I think it's a really rare case, but you might have damaged your pelvic bone area. And she's like, you know, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna heal on its own. We're gonna get you some therapy. We're gonna get you a walker because you're gonna have to use your walker until you can start moving on your own. And I was absolutely completely freaked out. I was devastated. I remember that same day was the day they come in and they take pictures of your newborn with their mommy, and I absolutely declined that. I didn't want to do it. I was scared. I couldn't move, and I was just really upset because no one seemed to understand like what I was feeling, and no one really, not that they had to make it a big deal, but they were just kind of like, you know, you're fine. And so I remember my husband ended up taking pictures with my baby boy, and now, even now to this day, I'm just like, I'm so sad that I didn't do it. But like I said, I was a first-time mom, and I was so scared that I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't move. I was like, what if I'm never gonna be able to walk again? It was just such a scary experience. I was upset, I was mad. I'm like, this is not how it's supposed to go. You know, like I expected to be able to, you know, put my makeup on after and take pictures with him, or, you know, I looked horrible. I was like swollen because I was crying, and I don't know, it was just so bad. And my husband ended up taking those pictures with him, which I'm kind of glad that at least he, you know, stepped it up. I didn't even tell him. He's just like, I'll go ahead and take the pictures with him. And so yeah, so that happened. I had to stay an extra night in the hospital, and then I was discharged. They gave me a walker. I had to walk around with like a walker in order to move around. And then my whole, pretty much the first few weeks of being a first-time mom was kind of like, I don't know, it was really sad because I couldn't even breastfeed my baby. I couldn't sit up or anything. My husband had to shower me because I had no movement. Like my legs, I couldn't really move them. And my husband pretty much took over everything. I tried to breast pump because obviously, and I would put myself in a position where I was comfortable and try to breast pump, but that just wasn't enough. Obviously, I wasn't latching him to me, so I wasn't getting enough milk. So then we started using formula, and he took it really good. Like, he didn't complain or anything. My baby boy took the formula. So then my husband stepped it up 100%. I make fun of him. I'm like, you were a mom for a few weeks. And it was a little sad, even though now I laugh about it and I tell him, Timmy thought you were his mommy. I was so sad because it even got to a point where my son, he was more attached to his dad because his dad was the one that was more hands-on, changing his diaper, waking up to feed him. Even though I wasn't able to do all those things, I would wake up with him, and I remember my husband would tell me like, just go to sleep, you're fine. And I'd be like, no, like I feel so useless. I feel like I can't even help you, like I can't even move. So the only thing that I could do is, you know, just stay awake with you, like to feel like at least I'm doing something by being awake, even though it's really nothing. So yeah, those weeks were very, very rough. Little by little, I started getting the movement back in between my pelvic bone area. And I was able to move one of my legs first. So at first my legs were like this, where I couldn't move anything. And then later it got to where I was able to move like one leg. So I would like use one leg to get down. And then the other one didn't have like the full movement yet because it still hurt. It was like, it was just so much pain. And then eventually I had movement and I was able to move both my legs. But by then my son was like fully into formula. I couldn't really breastfeed him. My milk, the little bit of milk that I had dried up completely. And so that's how that went. And I remember asking around and asking people like, has that ever happened to you? And I remember them saying like, no, I've never heard of that. That's never happened to me. So it is a very rare case, but I have read about it a lot. And it's a very rare case, but it does happen. It has to do with the baby pushing down a certain way. And it could definitely break your little, I guess your little pelvic bone area is kind of shaped into like a little butterfly. And it does snap in half really easily. That's what happened to me. It was very unfortunate and it's rare. It's not very common, but I don't know. Rare things happen to me, I guess. So that was that. And I am not completely 100% healed, I believe, because now here and there when I make like sudden movements or I get off the bed or I'm sleeping and I move my leg, I still feel like a weird sensation in my pelvic bone area where it hurts a little bit, and I get scared because I'm like, I don't know if it's state sensitive. I don't know if it can get damaged again easily. My tailbone, it did go back to normal, I believe, about 95%, because there's times here and there where I'm sitting on it where I feel like it gets numb or I feel like it, like pain. So it's not 100% healed, but it's definitely way better than it was before. And again, that does happen sometimes when you're pregnant. Your tailbone can snap or break, and that's because of a sudden movement or pressure that the baby puts on you, or moves in a weird way. That can happen. So up until now, I haven't heard anyone that has happened to, but I did do a lot of research, and those are a few of the answers and information that I found. Like I said, I was a little hesitant to share this story because it's been 5 years ago, but if you're a new mommy and this happened to you or it's happening to you, do not worry, it does go away. I read that it can take a few months for it to go back to normal. Luckily for me, it was less than a month. I think it was close to a month where I was fully recovered and I was able to move around again. But like I said, it does happen, so don't be scared if it's happening to you. And yeah, that was pretty much my labor and delivery story. I hope I didn't scare anyone. I swore to myself, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not having any more kids. I can't go through this again. It was so traumatic and scary, and definitely not how I planned my first, delivery, labor and delivery to be. My first baby, I did not expect that to happen, but it did. So I decided I don't want any more kids. But shortly after, I was like, you know what, looking at my son and just, I don't know, like, I love kids, and I'm like, okay, I want more. But then my husband was a little hesitant, and even now, he'll still tell me, like, I do want more. But then he pauses and he's like, but I'm just scared. What if the same thing happens that happened last time? It was really scary. And so he's okay if we have one and we stick with one. But I definitely came around and changed my mind. I don't think I meant what I said when I said I didn't want any more kids at all. I think I had just gone through something so traumatic and I was really, really scared. But honestly, it only lasted like a few months, and then I changed my mind and I was like, okay, I think I want more. So my baby boy is now 5 years old, and we have been actively trying, which that's a whole different story. But if it's in God's plans and in God's will, then we definitely will have more kids. And if it's not in God's plans and God's will, then we won't. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this story. I really hope you guys found it helpful and informative. If you guys know anyone that's going through this, definitely share this video with them if they're a first-time mommy. I know it's something that sounds really, really scary, but to be honest with you, it's better for you to be informed of all the possibilities that could happen, so you're not so scared when it does happen to you. Because like I said, I didn't know anybody. Like, I asked around, nobody ever told me that happened to them, and that made me even more scared, because I'm just like, what if it's just me? What if that just happens to me? What if I'm never gonna walk again? But yeah, I definitely did my research. I did my reading on it, and definitely it does happen. It is very rare, but it happens. But it does correct itself on its own, and you can also take therapy, which does help a lot as well. But yeah, guys, that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.